Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Burning Issues. Today I wanted to talk about setting boundaries, which I think is possibly, I say this every time, but I think this is extremely important, and I try and make every video important, or things that I think are important anyway. And what do I mean by boundaries? Well, we all have a structure of a day, a certain time we get up in the morning, a certain time we wind down in the evening, and maybe see our partners at certain times, or whatever it is. I think boundaries exist personally and professionally, but let's just work professionally for a moment. And in today's world where we work from home, a lot of people, and there's literally no boundary between your work space, I used to go to an office or location, and your home space. Now, you may well have a home office, granted, and if you do, I probably would ask, or that's the wrong word, but probably ask you to think about the fact that only do work in that one space. And that is your workspace. And when you go in there, it's like on your iPhone, you've got different modes: do not disturb, driving mode. That's work mode. Maybe you dress differently. And I know working from home, it's easy to be casual and whatnot, but I actually think there is some benefit in dressing for the job, even if you don't have a Zoom meeting or a video meeting that day. And then when you're finished, you change your clothes. Like when you go to the gym, you have gym clothes on, you're already, your mind's in, right, I'm in gym mode right now. And I think that's pretty important. So that would be the first thing I would think about. And definitely don't get into the habit. Obviously, every so often it's fine, but if the habit is you and your partner or whomever pulling out laptops and lounging on the couch doing work there, personally, I think that's a very, very bad way to be. There's no boundary in terms of time. There's no boundary in terms of location or where you're working or how you're working. And then your life and work are just blending together. And some may argue, well, that's a great thing. You kind of work and life. I don't think that's a very harmonious relationship. I think either your work's going to suffer or your private life's going to suffer. I don't think it's a very smart way to be. People may disagree, but that's my personal opinion. Boundaries also occur personally though. So for example, you might have certain times where you wind down. So that might be an hour before bed, you read a book or something. Well, if you keep your phone open and you're responding to WhatsApp messages for that hour, well, that's eating into your time. That's your downtime, which means the next day you're going to wake up and you're going to feel a bit groggy. You've not had the removing of blue light enough that you really need to before bedtime. So I would really argue that boundaries, and being quite firm with them, like defend them as if it's your life, because it is. Like at the end of the day, we all know the adage, time is more valuable than money. Well, if that was the case, why are you not protecting your hours in the day that are very, very precious to you? You don't get them back. And yes, there has to be flex, because somebody might call you from another country at a certain time, and that's fair enough. Or someone's in a crisis or whatever, I get it. But if every night you have a routine where between 9 and 10 p.m. you wind down, but that routine is eroded by messaging people back on Instagram or WhatsApp or whatever else, that's not really winding down. And there's no clear boundary there. And I'm not saying be rigid in life and don't enjoy yourself. And of course, there's room for flexing and bending these things, but there has to be some structure in place and some boundary in place. Just for me, I can tell you, we get as a business WhatsApps mainly, but also messages on LinkedIn and Instagram all night, all day, every hour you can think of. And it's very, very easy for me to see a message, jump straight into it. Before you know it, you're half an hour's worth of work, and it's 11 p.m. and I'm supposed to be, personally, I wake up early, so that is not a good time for me to be doing that. There are times where I'm waiting for a deal to close, and actually responding to that message will warrant a decent amount of profit, and I was waiting for it all day, etc., granted. So there are times and places to flex, as I say, these boundaries. But if you're constantly flexing the boundaries, then the boundaries don't exist. And if the boundaries don't exist, in my experience, then you don't give yourself that proper break and that proper kind of where does work end and where does kind of play and enjoyment begin, or personal life, time with friends and family versus time at work. So as I say, in a world right now, which is great, we can work from anywhere and we can work from a beach and all the rest of it. I actually think it's very, very dangerous at this point in time for people just overworking, working all hours God sends. I'll just do an extra hour here or there. Well, if that's every single week, I was saying this to somebody some time ago, if you work one more hour a day than you're contracted to, that is another day a week you're giving away. And that's the way to look at it. You could say, oh, well, I'm trying to progress my career, and I understand that argument. But at the same time, if you're working for somebody, you're contracted to a certain number of hours a week. You should be able to get your role done in that many hours a week. If you can't, I suggest you go and speak to whoever the manager is and say, listen, these number of hours, it's not possible to do this. And they might say, well, you're not working hard enough or whatever. And there's a conversation to be had there, or smart enough, or have you tried this, that, and the other. But if you're just making it up week after week with working effectively 6 days with that extra hour a day, that's really quite daft. When you could have been doing, I don't know, a side business, you could have been reading, educating yourself, you could have been just going on a walk in nature, just going to the gym, using that time that's not just trading it for money. So that's my kind of 10 pence worth of boundaries. One of the good pieces of technology that you can use for this, there are many apps out there. I personally find pretty simple. The iPhone's Do Not Disturb works for me. You could also just switch your phone off, to be fair. I personally don't, because I like taking photographs, as you know, so I like it to be on. And someone might need me. So I have my Do Not Disturb set that if one of my favourite contacts, so that would be family, close friends, if they call, then yes, I'll take the call, sort of thing. But outside of that, I pretty much keep the phone on Do Not Disturb for kind of deep focus. I've also introduced something new this week, which I'm interested to decide to see where it goes, which is a 2-hour window, 1 to Thursday, just the way I've decided to do it, in the afternoon, of what I'm just calling kind of pen and paper work. So it's the more of the medium long-term thinking. It's no distractions, so it's taking away all the notifications, because at the end of the day, as a friend of mine mentioned the other day, that is effectively the whole purpose of the phone and all these apps and all these notifications is to hijack your attention. So if you look at that and think of it as hijacking your attention, you stop. So if the phone's on Do Not Disturb, pen and paper's out, I know I've got, for example, a charity golf event coming up, I've got some long-term plans as to where, which marketplace I want to take it, and I need time just to sit down, pen and paper, and connect dots and go, hold on a minute, I already know this person, let's chat with that person and create a plan on pen and paper without the distractions. Because personally, I know for me, if I try and do that on a Word document, I get a ping from here, something from there, then this and that and the other. Before you know it, those 2 hours you set aside does erodes. So I think boundaries are very important. I think it builds on what we talked about last week with discipline. If you have discipline in your day-to-day and with your boundaries, all of a sudden I think you become more efficient and importantly more effective. And I think the harmony between your work and your life will become enhanced. That's just my thoughts. Let me know what you think.